So we're baking for the first time, so we have a few things that are a little different. First of all is our stand mixer, our beaters, our big bowl, and we're doing a loaf pan for the dough to go into. So what I recommend is having a regular pan, lining that with aluminum foil just in case there's any spillage from this. We're doing banana bread, so you're going to want a paper plate. We're going to mash the bananas with a fork. You're also going to use the fork and that bowl right there to beat some eggs. You're going to need 2.5 cups of flour total. I don't have a 2.5 cup measuring, so I have a 2.5. And you want to be able to take the knife and scrape the top because you want as precise measurement as you can. This one right here is for our wet ingredients, and then we're going to mix all the dry ingredients together in this one. You can just use any big bowl that you want for that. We also have 2 measuring spoons. One's a teaspoon, the other's a 1/4 teaspoon. So with that, we'll get into the ingredients and show you how to make this delicious bread. I know baking can be daunting. I'm not great at it. I've heard it said that baking is chemistry and cooking is art, and I failed chemistry. But even I can make this bread, so if I can make this bread, you can make this bread. It's not that hard. You don't need starters, yeast, any of that sort of thing. So what I like to do is I like to get out all my ingredients first, measure everything, set them aside. That way, all I have to do is put everything into the stand mixer in order. Makes it so much easier than trying to do it while you're mixing the stuff together. So the things you're going to need for this are sugar, flour. We make sour milk, so you need some regular milk and some white vinegar, salt, baking powder, and baking soda. Some pretty ripe bananas. We're going to mush those down, so the riper the better. It's much easier to mush them. You're going to need butter, some eggs. We put cinnamon into our bread, so I'd recommend doing that. You can leave it out if you're not a fan of cinnamon. We also do vanilla extract, same thing there. And if you want to make this even better, I like to put some fresh blueberries in there. It also works really well with dried fruits. I put cherries in it all the time, really good. And I don't like a chunky, crunchy bread, so I don't usually put any sort of nuts into the batter. What I do is I take some peanuts here and I crush them up and I sprinkle them on the top, and that's really good. But if you're allergic, don't need to put them in. Not a fan of peanuts, but you do want some nuts in there. Walnuts and cashews also go great. Okay, with that, let's get to measuring our ingredients and start mixing. So the first step is super easy. Take your mixing bowl like this, and you're going to do a cup of sugar and a 1/2 cup of butter. So when you're measuring, you want to come up to the edge, tap it like this, make sure that it all goes down because you can see that was up to the brim. So I'm going to add that and just a tiny bit more. Can't have it too sweet, right? And then one of these sticks of butter is a 1/2 cup, so just open it up and throw it in. Okay, next stage is you're going to want to beat the 3 eggs. So in general, if you're going to do eggs, you want to put them in a bowl separately anyway. That way, if you get any of the shells in, it's much easier to take them out than rather if you do it into directly. So just cracking them. It's usually easier on a surface that's not flat and kind of rounded. So I'd recommend doing that. If you have problems with those, I have that all the time. Breaking my yolks when I'm doing just eggs for breakfast. Get them in there. Just stir them up with the fork. You don't need to have them completely whisked together. Just make sure that they're broken up enough that they can incorporate pretty well. We're going to need this fork later, so keep that. But you can just set this bowl aside now. So after you've beaten the eggs, go ahead and transfer your fork to your paper plate where you have your bananas. Obviously you peel them first before you start mashing. And you want these as smooth as you can get them. That's why you want to go with the ripe ones first. I am sure there is going to be a kitchen assistant underneath me at some point because this is her favorite thing. In fact, in our house, we don't even say that word usually. We say yellow fruit because she doesn't know what we're talking about. And yes, she is right here. She's very excited. I'll have to give her some that's not coated with the egg in a little bit. But just go ahead and mash these. You want them basically the same consistency as a nice smooth mashed potatoes. Okay, so after we're done with this, we'll set up the next part And I should get to giving her a piece of banana before I do that. Gotta pay the kitchen assistants. Sky, you want your banana? Boy, that's a good banana, huh? Snow, where's your banana? Do you want your banana? I've got banana. Here's my old girl. Our next step is the sour milk mix. So what you're going to want to do is you need half a cup of milk. And you want a teaspoon of the vinegar. And I don't know why this works. I just know it does because I've tried it without the vinegar before and it did not taste anywhere as close to good. You're also going to want 1 teaspoon of the vanilla extract. Then just stir that together, set that on the side, and we'll start working on our dry ingredients. So we're going to start measuring the dry ingredients, and you can put them all into one container like this. That's what I prefer to do. But when you're measuring the flour, it's easier to have smaller ones because you do have to go in and shake it off because you want a precise measurement. So push it against the side like that. Tap it. Make sure it's up to the brim. Actually, you want just a little bit overflowing. Then you take a knife and you scrape it off like that. We have another half cup that's going to go in. I'll do that in a second just to shorten the video so you don't have to worry about that. Then we're also going to want to do a very similar thing with the other ingredients. So this is the baking soda. So you're going to want to go in, get a little extra mound, scrape it off. And this is a teaspoon. Just make sure it's as flat as possible. Going to do a same measurement on this. This is the baking powder. Now you can rinse this off in between if you want, up to you. We're doing 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. That's a little bit harder. And we're eyeballing this because this is one of the ones that's not a chemical reaction part of it. So this one you can play around with if you want more or less cinnamon. And then lastly, we're going to go with 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Well, I got a little that went over the side, so adjust if that happens to you. So now it's a little less than that because we did have some go over the side. Then once you're done with all of that, mix it around together, make sure it's nice and comes together well. You're going to be putting this in stages, so you do want to have it as evenly distributed as you possibly can. All right, now that we have all of our stuff set up, I'm going to show you the trick I usually use to do this before we start doing the mixer. Then we'll go ahead and start the mixing and put it into the oven. And then after that, I'll show you some of the different ways you can use this bread. So since I'm not super confident in my baking skills, what I like to do is set up everything so I know what order it goes in. So we're going to start by creaming the butter. Then we're going to put in the eggs, the banana mash, the milk, and then the dry ingredients. So I like to have them kind of in a chronological order of what goes in. So I highly recommend that if you're not used to baking, just to make sure that you don't put the wrong thing in at the wrong time. All right, so we're going to start with the creaming of the butter, and you'll also need to grab your spatula for doing that. Okay, so you're going to turn on your mixer and you're going to start low, and I hold the bowl, and it's going to just throw that out everywhere. And you're just going to keep moving this towards the beaters until the butter gets completely absorbed into the sugar. And every now and then you might want to turn it off because you get the butter stuck in there, and kind of push it out like that so it gets back into the rest of the mix. So I'll do this for a little bit and show you how it works at the very end of this process, and then we'll go into the next step. So this is about the consistency you want. It's going to be a little chunky. That's all you're going to be able to do. It's not going to ever get super smooth. So once again, we're going to turn this on, and we're going to dump the egg in now and mix that in. Now that you have the egg in, it will get a little bit smoother. So just keep moving stuff, make sure nothing sticks to the side. See how that blob wanted to stay away from it? Just keep moving stuff around, get it as mixed as possible. This part you will get some pretty smooth stuff going. You can see it's already a lot smoother than it was. Now that this is nice and smooth, we're going to add the banana in. You can do this with it on or not. I find it easier to put it in when it's not. So then we're going to go back to mixing. Make sure that all gets incorporated and is nice and smooth. And then we're going to put the milk in. Okay, now that that's all nice and incorporated and you have all the lumps from the bananas out, we're going to go in with the sour milk. Just move it around. Only need a couple seconds with that. You can always hit the beaters with that if you have anything stuck on it. Now we're going in with the dry ingredients. Now you don't put them all in at once, you put a little at a time. So, not too much. Hold your spatula against the side like that. Make sure it's all being directed towards the beaters. And you're just going to do this until all the wet parts are soaked up into the dry ingredients. Once that happens, you add a little bit more. I recommend scraping the sides first. Make sure you get all of it. See, we have a lump there that's trying to escape. So just push that into the beater. And you're just going to repeat this process until you've mixed in everything. All right, so after you've mixed in most of your stuff, this is the consistency you're going to have. It's not super thick, but it's not thin either. Once again, just make sure you scrape along the sides to get out anything you can. You can always get the stuff off the back of your beater like this, like I said earlier. Just make sure everything's nice and incorporated. You can see it's a little bit thicker than pancake batter, but not too much. And I've left some of the dry ingredients on the side because I have heard a trick that if you're going to put anything into a batter like this, like the fruit we're going to do, that it's good to coat that with a little flour because it makes it not fall through the matrix and have all the fruit on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and wash the blueberries, give this another minute or two mixing, and then we're going to go ahead and get everything set up to go into the oven. What I like to do, because this does come off, and if you move this out of the way, you get this dripping down. So while I'm doing the other steps, I just leave it like this so it comes off naturally. You can see the little pile. So in the meantime, I've washed the blueberries, dried them off. So we're going to take them and put them into this flour. Move them around, get them nice and coated. You want them to be as dry as you can get them. Now, I don't know why this works, but it does help it not sink to the bottom and burn. So that's why we're doing this. So you just toss them until they look kind of like that, nice and coated. Now, we're not going to use the mixing part because they'll just destroy these blueberries. You want them to be as whole as you can. Dump out the rest of that and just start gently mixing all this together so it's evenly distributed throughout the batter. You're going to work in the rest of that dry mix as you're doing that. Then after this, we're going to go ahead and grease one of our bread loaves, get the air fryer going, put that in there, and we're going to check it about 20 minutes through, and that's when we're going to deal with the peanuts. All right, we have the air fryer going. So you're going to get the loaf pan out. I like to put it on here in case anything happens with the dough, because it does rise, and if it rises before it's completely solid, I've had it a couple times, not very often, where it does leak down. So I'd put it on a tray with some aluminum foil just to make sure that you don't have anything happen and get this stuff on your burners. So now that everything's nice and folded in, just back and forth, put it in there. And you want to keep it a little bit below the top of the tray. All right, so the air fryer is set. It's at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to go in for about half an hour, check it, and we're also going to put the peanuts on top at that point. All right, now that that's been going for about 20-25 minutes, we're going to get the peanuts on there. So all you're going to want to do is put them in a paper towel, give it a little bit of a bash, check them out. You don't want super fine crumbs, so just a little bit more in that area. Now you can do this earlier in the process. If you do it right in the beginning, it works a lot better, but then the peanuts can get pretty toasty. So you can see it's already got a bit of a crust, so this might not stick as well. Just kind of, oh, that's a kitchen assistant. Always wants something. So just sprinkle it on the top. You can then put a little bit of an oil coating. And that'll help them stick a little bit. Okay, so this is going to go back into the oven for a while. As you can see, it's still a little jiggly. So probably another 10 minutes and check it. So it varies depending on your oven, how long you're going to cook this. What you do though to figure out if it's done or not is you stick a toothpick in, and if you pull it out and it's clean, then it's done. So one of the things I really like to do with this is make French toast with it. So you're going to need 2 eggs, splush of milk, splush of the vanilla, not too much, just a tiny bit of cinnamon since we already have some in there. And you're just going to beat this and mix it all together. You want it as smooth and as consistent as possible. Then we're going to go ahead and dredge the banana bread in this and throw it into a skillet. So when you're doing the French toast, something that's very, very delicious is you take some peanut butter, spread it over the banana bread, put it together like you're having a little PB&J sandwich, dredge it in that mix that we made, move it around, flip it over into the pan until it's golden brown. Trust me, you're going to love it. See, this is the reason I love this recipe. Delicious with just butter on it, but you can also make some French toast, so good. You can do a peanut butter and honey sandwich, peanut butter and jelly, so many options with it. That's why this is some badass banana bread.